My name is Iris Vance, 31 years old. Seattle rain turns everything into a screensaver, wet neon, bus windows fogged by other people's Mondays, a horizon that keeps promising to clear if you just wait through one more cloud. I was 4 days into a 2-week deployment, the kind of trip that eats your sleep and pays you in stale coffee and client nods. The hotel room had that anonymous, good intentions smell: citrus cleaner, carpet paste, a hint of other people's conferences. I kicked off my shoes, opened my laptop, and let muscle memory take me through the checks. Staging stable, cron jobs alive, dashboards green. The buzz on my phone felt like nothing. Then I saw it. Giselle Hart, the ex with a publicist's smile, had posted a photo. Her hand on a wine glass, Noah's arm around her shoulders. The caption, "Date night with Bay." Morton's level white tablecloth. Fillets that glowed under too kind lighting. The red dress, my red dress, the one I bought Noah for our anniversary because he'd said he wanted to dress like the man he planned to be. The angle was practiced. A wedding band hand, conveniently out of frame, her head tilted toward him like a question answered. 106 likes in minutes. Amanda Morrison, Noah's sister, already in the comments. You two are perfect together. I didn't call. There was a version of me that would have. The one who performed sanity in speakerphone format while the other person rewrote the scene in real time. Instead, I screenshotted the post. I opened Diane Morrison's Facebook, verses at 6 o'clock a.m., casserole photos on Saturdays, and attached the image with one sentence. "Mrs. Morrison, I thought you should see what Noah is posting while I'm away on business. I'll handle our living situation when I return. Iris." Then I slid the phone face down, opened the airline app, and moved my return up a week. $400 to buy back my dignity felt like a discount. After that, I reserved a U-Haul, texted Caleb Ross, friend recovering from his own breakup and crashing on a couch that hated his spine. Me, room opening in a week, $200. Interested? Caleb, yesterday, you okay? Me, working on it. Caleb, I'll bring mussels and pizza. I muted Noah. You'd be surprised how loud a muted person can still sound. My phone was a vibrating beehive on the desk while I finished slide decks and answered questions about failover protocols. When the break came, I glanced. Noah. Babe, what did you do? Mom is freaking out. This isn't what it looks like. Amanda. 14 unread attacks. Petty, controlling, trust her. The kind of words people fling like rice at a wedding. Diane. Soft, formal. Iris, we need to discuss this situation. Please have Noah call us immediately. We are praying for you both. I close messages and open the terminal. On good days, code forgives you. It doesn't need your prettiest face. That night, Giselle posted a story. Black screen, white text. When someone you love betrays your trust by turning your family against you. I had to admire the craft. She'd stolen the language of victims and fitted it over a red dress like a shrug. Morning shifted the narrative again. Another story. Yes, I had dinner with a friend who's going through a rough time. No, I didn't cheat. People create drama when they're bored. Heart emojis piled up. Noah didn't post anything. He never did. He was always the quiet half of a scandal, the reasonable center, he liked to say. Reasonable men love women who can do the shouting for them. I remembered Noah's kiss in the departures lane, the way he'd said, "Bring back that coffee from Pike Place, the one you like, babe." It seemed obscene now, the domesticity of it. What I brought back instead was a flight change and a resolve that tasted cleaner than rage. On the plane home, I rested my head against the window and watched the country redraw itself into rectangles of obedience. Somewhere between Seattle and home, the anger melted into something colder. Inventory. What I bought, what I built, what I tolerated, what I refused to finance anymore. Baggage claim is where people tell the truth with their feet. Noah stood near the carousel with Amanda, all sharp eyeliner and ready claws, and Giselle in her day-after confidence. The three of them faced me like a panel show. Iris, please, Noah started, stepping into my path. He looked softer than his posts, younger than his lies. Let me explain. I sidestepped. Which part? The caption or the arm? Giselle slid in, voice honeyed. This is a misunderstanding. Noah and I are friends. I'm going through a really hard... How's your boyfriend feel about your idea of friend? I asked. Or are we doing the we're on a break monologue today? That's personal, she snapped. So was my relationship, I said, until you posted it. Amanda's voice was already climbing a ladder. You are being so dramatic. It was dinner. You're wrecking his life with your manipulative... Enough, I said. Not loud, but calibrated. You can go to your home. I met Noah's eyes. I'm going to mine. What does that mean? He asked, panic seeping through the calm. It means the condo you've been living in without being on the lease. I slid an envelope from my carry-on, the paper already creased from being read by my resolve. This is your 30-day notice. Month-to-month guest. You have rights. You also have a deadline. He looked like the floor had tilted. You're seriously evicting me? I'm seriously done subsidizing a story where I'm the fool, I said. Giselle reached for his arm. Amanda muttered something about toxic women, which I ignored because the carousel alarm began its polite yelp, and my suitcase appeared like a gift from a kinder universe. I lifted it, nodded once to no one in particular, and walked toward the exit. They followed, naturally, Noah pleading, Amanda scolding, Giselle mediating like a bootleg therapist. At the curb, Noah grabbed for my sleeve and then thought better of it. Iris, please, we can talk. Don't do anything crazy. I'm allergic to crazy, I said. That's why I keep receipts. The rideshare driver opened the trunk. I slid my suitcase in and turned back one last time. Call your parents, I added. They're very concerned about your living situation. Amanda's face registered the first real flicker of worry I'd seen. You told Mom and Dad? I informed them, I said. I figured they deserve the truth you deny them. Everyone gets what they worship. You worship the feed. I worship the record. In the car, my phone pulsed like a fever. I let it. The city streamed by, glass and judgment. At home, the condo smelled like the life I paid for. Cedar candle, laundry soap, electricity, not asked for, but expected. I wheeled the suitcase into the bedroom and set the U-Haul confirmation on the dresser. Caleb texted a bicep emoji and a pizza slice. I sent a key emoji back. By midnight, the adrenaline had drained and left something steadier behind. A ledger, balanced. I printed the receipt for my flight change and tucked it into a folder labeled, Move Out, Noah. Under it, I slid a copy of the notice I'd served, then the screenshots, then the email to Diane. There's a comfort in order when your heart's been living in someone else's chaos. At 2:11 a.m., a final text buzzed through the mute like a fly, finding a window gap. Noah, you can't do this to us. I didn't write back what I was thinking. I'm not doing this to us. You did it to me. I'm just doing the paperwork. I set the phone on the nightstand, turned my face to the window, and watched the lights on the neighboring building flicker out one by one like lies running out of power. Morning would bring police and leases and boxes and the strange choreography of love leaving a room. Morning would bring Robert in a suit and Diane with a prayer she meant for everyone. Morning would bring the first real adult consequence Noah had met without me cushioning the fall. For now, there was only the hum of the fridge, the reliable throb of the city, and the knowledge that truth doesn't need a megaphone when it has documentation. By sunrise, the city was rinsed clean by rain, the kind that left the streets shining like they'd been freshly paved for second chances. I made coffee, black and scalding, and watched steam curl up past the stack of cardboard boxes waiting by the door. Moving day. Not for me, for him. The U-Haul was due at 9 o'clock. At 8:58, Caleb's text popped up. We're outside, 2 friends with me. Got tape, gloves, and strong opinions about your ex. When I stepped out, the truck's orange logo glowed like a warning sign. Caleb grinned from the driver's seat. You sure you want to do this without calling him first? I called a locksmith instead, I said, holding up the new keys. Inside, the condo was still and neat, the way chaos always pretends to be reasonable right before it starts screaming. The air smelled faintly of cologne, Noah's, and the citrus cleaner I'd used last night. His things were everywhere but looked like props now. Sneakers by the door, half-drunk protein shake on the counter, a hoodie tossed across the couch like an afterthought. Caleb whistled low. He really thought this was his kingdom. It was, I said, until the Queen cut the budget. We got to work. Every thud of a taped box was therapy, the kind that doesn't need an appointment. By 9:45, Noah had made his dramatic entrance. The front door slammed against the wall, and he stood there like someone had stolen his name off the mailbox. What the hell is this? He demanded. Inventory, I said, not looking up. He crossed the room in 3 strides, face flushed. You can't just decide. Actually, I said, cutting him off, the lease says I can. It's in my name, all of it. The furniture, too. Would you like to see the receipts? That word made him flinch. Receipts. Stop acting like I'm some criminal, he snapped. We were together. Yes, I said quietly, sealing a box. And now we're not. Love doesn't make you a co-owner. His phone was already in his hand. I'm calling the cops. Perfect, I said. I'd love a witness. 10 minutes later, 2 officers knocked. A young one with kind eyes and an older one who looked like he'd seen every version of domestic disaster. Sir, ma'am, the older one began, we got a call about property theft? Noah stepped forward. She's stealing everything, leaving me with nothing. The officer turned to me. Is your name on the lease? Yes, I said. His isn't. The younger cop asked gently, did you buy these items together? No, I said, handing over my phone. Receipts. Every purchase. My card. The officer scrolled, nodded. Then she's within her rights to remove her property. Noah's voice cracked. This is financial abuse. The older officer sighed. Breaking up isn't abuse, sir. It's a choice. Caleb snorted under his breath. I shot him a look that said, not helping, but the corner of his mouth twitched anyway. Noah turned toward me, desperate now. Iris, please, let's talk privately. Privacy is how this all got here, I said. We'll stay public. For a moment, he looked like he might cry. Not from heartbreak, from humiliation. Then came the click of polished shoes behind us. Son! We all turned. Robert Morrison, immaculate in a gray suit, stood at the doorway like judgment in human form. Behind him, Diane hovered with her purse clutched like a hymnal. Dad, Noah started, voice cracking. Robert raised a hand. Enough. Officers, thank you. I'll handle this. The cops nodded and left, grateful for an exit. Caleb and his friends retreated to the hallway. The room suddenly felt like church before confession. Robert turned to me. May we speak privately? For a second, I considered refusing. But Robert Morrison wasn't a man you told no to easily. We stepped into the kitchen, the hum of the fridge between us. I don't approve of the way you went about this, he said evenly. I don't approve of what I discovered on social media, I replied. He gave a slow nod. Fair. Then, after a pause, Natalie, he caught himself, old habit. Noah swears it wasn't physical. I arched a brow. Would you tolerate Diane posting date night with Bay while she was still married to you? The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite amusement, not quite shame. No, I would not. We stood there in silence. The sound of tape being ripped from a dispenser filled the gap. Finally, Robert said, she'll be out within the week. I corrected gently. He blinked, almost embarrassed. Right, he. His voice softened. He's still my child, but I won't condone lies. When we stepped back into the living room, Diane had her hand on Noah's shoulder. Her face was pale, but her voice was calm. You'll come home tonight. We'll talk as a family. I'm not a child, Noah muttered. Then stop acting like one, Robert said. Noah glared at me. You think you won because you embarrassed me? No, I said. I think I stopped paying for the privilege. He flinched again. That word paying. The only currency he ever truly understood. Robert turned to his son, finality in his tone. You'll leave within the week. I have 30 days, Noah said, clinging to the last thread of control. You'll leave within the week, Robert repeated, and his look could have frozen fire. Diane sighed, the kind of sigh that sounds like prayer. Come on, Noah. As they walked out, she paused beside me. Iris, she said softly, you shouldn't have had to handle this alone. I didn't answer. Some apologies are better when they're half-spoken. When the door shut, Caleb peeked in. So, that went well? Define well, I said. He surveyed the half-packed condo. You want me to label these boxes freedom or closure? I almost smiled. Both. By afternoon, the furniture was stripped down to essentials, mine and mine alone. The place looked lighter, emptier, honest. Noah texted once more that night. You didn't have to make it public, you could have just told me. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed, then typed one line back. You could have just not lied. He didn't reply. For the first time in years, I slept without waiting for the next argument disguised as a conversation. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the blinds. I made coffee, stood barefoot on the cold tile, and realized that peace doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It just slips in quietly once you've cleared enough space for it to live. Still, I knew him. Noah wouldn't leave in a week. He'd linger. He'd test boundaries. And when control slipped from his fingers, he'd grab at anything, even fire. I didn't know yet what shape his retaliation would take, but I could feel it gathering already, like static before a storm. Because men like Noah don't accept endings. They look for sequels. And this story wasn't done. Noah didn't leave in a week. He left trails, perfume that wasn't mine on towels I bought, an extra toothbrush by the sink, and a car I didn't recognize in my spot, gleaming smugly under the garage lights. By day 3, the car acquired a face. Giselle, carrying a paper bag with artisan bread like she was doing charity. I watched from the kitchen window as she tilted her head toward the sky, the way women who love a camera test the angle of heaven. She looked up at the balcony, looked down at her phone, and smiled. 2 hours later, Noah posted a story from my balcony, clinking glasses, the skyline in soft focus. Caption: grateful for real support. Her hand drifted into frame, red nails against the glass stem. There's a kind of audacity that doesn't even bother to be careful. It just assumes you'll blink. I didn't blink. I screen recorded. Date, time, GPS tag. That night, Noah went live from the living room, angling the lens to avoid every object with a receipt attached to my name. I'm being forced out, he told 37 viewers who sent crying emojis and you got this comments. Abuse isn't always physical. He glanced off screen as if reading a prompt from a ghost. Sometimes it's financial. I set the phone down and opened a folder on my laptop labeled Evidence. Inside, lease PDFs, serial numbers, time-stamped purchase confirmations, the police report number from moving day, screenshots of his stories, screenshots of hers, a choir of documentation. My hand stopped shaking when my cursor started filing. On day 5, a courier slid a thick envelope under my door. Hart and Lewis, LLP letterhead. The tone was expensive. They demanded $15,000 for unlawful eviction, return of gifted property, 3 months of living expenses, and pain and suffering. They included a list of items jointly acquired, which read like a shopping montage from a life I paid for. The letter gave me 10 days to comply to avoid court. I sent the packet to my cousin Tommy, not a corporate titan, but a litigator with a nose for theatrics and a keyboard for a sword. He replied with a voice memo. He wants money for gifts and he's squatting in your place. Iris, this is performance art. 10 minutes later, he forwarded his response to Hart and Lewis, a neat, lethal refusal plus a formal eviction date with court on the calendar. Let's do this in daylight, he added. Noah pivoted. His talent had never been fidelity. It was adaptation. First came the work attack. He called my boss Kyle, told HR I was unstable and making threats. But I'd already given Kyle a heads up the day I changed my flight, sent him a single-page brief, dates, screenshots, and a simple line. I anticipate a smear. Here are the receipts. HR logged Noah's call as harassment and asked if I felt safe. Yes, I said, because I've stopped funding my own disrespect. Then Noah went to LinkedIn. He posted 3 paragraphs about surviving narcissistic abuse in tech, never naming me, but tagging jargon I'd used in a conference talk the week before. The comments were a balm for him. Stay strong, brother, and a test for me. I didn't reply with a paragraph. I replied with a picture. Giselle's date night with Bay post. No text, no embellishment. Documentation is louder than adjectives. He deleted the post within the hour. The next day, the escalation found its ugliest edge. Noah told his parents I'd been physically abusive. On the 15th, he said, the night he left to protect himself. I looked at my calendar and almost laughed. On the 15th, I was in Seattle, on stage, presenting to 60 engineers at a partner campus. There were emails, photos, timestamps, badge logs, a lanyard still looped on my closet hook like a souvenir. I clicked through all of it with a calm so pure it felt like someone else's breath. My phone rang. Robert Morrison. His voice could have cut sheet metal. Iris, he said, these are serious accusations. They are, I agreed. Would you like to hear my flight number or see the video of my keynote? I sent him both before he answered. He went quiet long enough for a new email to arrive. From the conference organizer, time-stamped, my name in the subject line. Thank you for presenting in bold letters. I see, Robert said finally. No apology, just the weight of a truth he couldn't deflect. We'll be in touch. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table, the wood warm under my palms. The condo was quiet except for the fridge and the distant elevator ding. Other lives going up and down on schedule. It's a strange feeling when a lie dies. It doesn't crash, it exhales. You realize you'd been holding your breath for days. That evening, the balcony starred in another chapter. Giselle arrived with overnight luggage. Noah filmed her back as she entered, captioned, "Some people show up." Her posture said victory. Her eyes, when the glass door reflected them, said panic. People who build relationships on content forget that windows film too. I did not text. I did not speak. I documented the guest policy, the clause that forbids overnight stays beyond 3 consecutive nights without written approval. I emailed building management with screenshots. The property manager replied with a tidy, "Thank you. We'll note the violation." The law is not a story. It's a grid. You mark the cell and move on. At work, I was promoted. The news slid into my inbox between a vendor invoice and a calendar invite. Senior deployment lead. I stared at the subject line until the letters steadied. It felt anticlimactic in the best way. Achievement had stopped needing Noah's applause. 2 days later, Diane called. Her voice had lost its Sunday softness. "Iris," she said, "we're coming tomorrow morning, with a truck." "You don't need my permission," I said. "Only his cooperation." There's a kind of mercy that wears steel underneath. Diane had found it. That night, as if sensing his timeline shrinking, Noah lobbed one more grenade. A late text, proofless, pleading. "I did love you. You know that, right?" I stared at the sentence like it was a magic trick with the wires showing. I typed, deleted, typed again, and left it unsent. He could keep his performance. I was done being the audience. I slept, deeply, finally. The building sighed. The city traded its neon for moonlight. Somewhere in another apartment, a baby cried and a mother hummed. There are lives that never notice yours collapsing and rebuilding in the same week. The normalcy felt like a benediction. Morning. I made coffee, laced my boots, and opened the blinds. Robert's truck and backed into the loading zone like a verdict returning. 3 men in church logo polos climbed out with moving blankets. Diane stepped onto the curb, wearing flats and a face that said enough. My phone buzzed. Caleb downstairs with donuts. Right as Noah sent a text from the bedroom. "Don't let them in." Another followed. "We're not done." I silenced the thread and pocketed the phone. Diane rang my bell. When I opened, she didn't hug me. She nodded, once. "Good morning, Iris." "Morning," I said, stepping aside. "Kitchen's to the left, Pride's to the right." She almost smiled. "Almost. We'll take the kitchen." Behind her, Robert entered, without flourish. He surveyed the room the way some men survey fields they intend to harvest. Calculating, quiet. He met my gaze briefly. "Slander dies hard," he said, a statement and a confession. "But it dies." I thought of the blank space between accusation and proof, how quickly it fills when you let sunlight in. It does. Robert turned toward the bedroom. "Noah," he called, voice neither raised nor warm. "We're here. Get dressed." A door clicked. Footsteps. Giselle emerged first, sunglasses on like armor, overnight bag in tow. She didn't meet my eyes. She met Diane's and flinched. "I was just leaving," she murmured. Diane's smile was southern as iced tea and twice as cold. "I'm sure you were." Giselle brushed past, the scent of her perfume collapsing behind her like an alibi. Noah followed, hair uncombed, mouth set in a line that had never learned apology. He stopped when he saw the men with moving blankets. "You can't make me—" Robert's eyebrow lifted a millimeter. "I can." Noah looked to me, maybe hoping for the softer landing I used to provide. I gave him a hallway, long, empty, ending at a door. He tried again. "Iris, please, let's talk." "Not today," I said. "Today is for logistics." Robert checked his watch. "We aim to be done by noon." He nodded to the men. "Let's begin." Noah retreated to the bedroom, grumbling. Diane touched my elbow, the gentlest contact. "You shouldn't have had to be the adult," she said. "Someone had to," I replied. I got tired of renting the role. She inhaled, exhaled. "It ends now." Across the room, the first box closed with a thud that sounded like punctuation. Not an ending, exactly. A period at the end of a lie. The sentence after would be plain and unglamorous. Rent checks and quiet dinners and floors that stayed clean. I stepped aside and let the morning do what it came to do. By noon, the truck was half full and the air in my condo had shifted. lighter, like the walls were finally exhaling. Robert's men moved with quiet efficiency, wrapping furniture in blankets, taping boxes shut with the rhythm of a metronome. Diane hovered, calm but decisive, labeling each box with a black marker. Bedroom, kitchen, regret. I didn't ask about that last one. Some truths don't need labels, they just need to leave. Noah stood near the doorway, arms crossed, face drained of color. Every so often, he muttered a protest, soft, useless things like, "That's mine," or "You can't take that." But Robert never raised his voice. He didn't have to. "Son," he said once, quiet enough that only we heard. "Don't make this harder than it already is." Giselle's perfume still lingered faintly in the bedroom, a ghost of self-importance. The empty closet felt symbolic, like watching a theater after the actors have left but the spotlights still hum. When the last box was sealed, Diane turned to Noah. "You have two choices," she said evenly. "Come with us like a man, or we pack for you like a child." Noah's jaw trembled. "You're choosing her over me?" Robert's voice sharpened. "We're choosing accountability over indulgence." For once, he had no comeback. He just nodded, slowly, like someone finally seeing the math in his own debt. When he turned to me, his expression almost looked human again. "I did love you, Iris," he said. I smiled faintly, not cruelly. "You loved what I provided. There's a difference." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Robert's hand tightened on his shoulder, the old parental signal that meant enough. By 2, the truck pulled away. The rumble faded, leaving only silence and sunlight pooling on the hardwood floors. Diane lingered a moment longer. "I know this doesn't fix what happened," she said softly, "but it ends what shouldn't continue." I nodded. That's all I needed. She squeezed my arm once and followed her husband downstairs. When the door closed, I leaned against it and let the quiet soak in. The kind of quiet you can actually hear. Refrigerator hum, traffic in the distance, heartbeat returning to its natural rhythm. Peace doesn't announce itself. It just shows up after the noise dies. 2 months later, life had smoothed into something simple and almost beautiful. The condo stayed organized, practical, alive. Caleb moved in as a roommate, punctual rent, minimal drama, and an oddly therapeutic obsession with lasagna. Every night smelled like stability and tomato sauce. At work, I got promoted, officially senior deployment lead, a title that used to feel unreachable when my energy was split between work and crisis management. My days were now full of structure, my nights empty of arguments. I learned that rest doesn't feel lazy when it's earned. As for Noah, he was back with his parents, under Robert's roof, which meant under Robert's rules. Curfew. Church twice on Sundays, once on Wednesdays. Full-time work. Counseling. The kind of structure he'd mocked until it came with consequences. Word trickled through Diane, who still texted polite updates now and then. Maybe guilt, maybe grace. "He's in therapy," she said once. "He's finally listening." I didn't ask for details. Some chapters read better summarized. Giselle, apparently, had her own unraveling. Robert told Diane, who told my mother, who told me, in that way, gossip travels dressed as prayer. Giselle's estranged partner had called Diane personally to confirm what everyone already suspected. They were never separated. They were in counseling, trying to save their marriage. So the mentor wasn't free. She was just convenient. And Noah had built his house on borrowed sand. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth has a half-life longer than revenge. 3 weeks later, at Target, I saw them. Noah in jeans and a tucked-in polo, pushing a cart like someone still learning how to live without a spotlight. Robert beside him, straight-backed, eyes forward. Diane at the end of the aisle, scanning prices like nothing had ever happened. Noah noticed me first. He froze. The color drained from his face. Not guilt exactly, but the recognition that some people you can't rewrite. He took a step forward. Robert's hand landed on his shoulder, steady but firm. One simple gesture that said not yet. Diane looked up, saw me, and nodded once. Not a smile, not a glare, just acknowledgement. That small nod said everything. We know, we remember, we're done. I nodded back. Then I turned down the next aisle and didn't look back. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Iris, I know you'll probably delete this, but I need you to know I'm in therapy now. I understand what I did was wrong. Giselle wasn't worth losing you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm working on myself." For a moment, I stared at it. Not angry, not moved, just still. Then I realized something. He still didn't get it. It was never about Giselle. It was about respect, about the kind of decency that doesn't need to be taught by humiliation. I deleted the message without replying. Forgiveness doesn't always mean contact. Sometimes it means silence that refuses to argue. A few weeks later, I finally took that trip I'd postponed for years. Seattle, but this time on my own terms. No work, no deadlines, just me, the water, and a city that had watched me begin my ending. On the flight, I looked out the window as the coastline curved into light. I thought about how healing doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It slips in slowly, like dawn through half-open curtains. I didn't think of Noah or Diane or Robert. I thought of the life I'd built after them. Clean, calm, self-funded. At home, Caleb had texted a picture of his lasagna masterpiece and the caption, "Piece is messy, but it tastes amazing." He wasn't wrong. When I landed, I pulled my suitcase from the carousel, walked through the same airport where I'd once handed a man his eviction notice, and smiled. Because the difference between that day and this one was everything. Back then, I'd left carrying proof of betrayal. Now I was coming home carrying nothing but peace. And this time I didn't need receipts.